Your identity will literally be the one thing that makes it whether you're going to be successful or not. And what I mean by that is I was having this conversation yesterday with one of my clients, and we were just talking about how it was slower for him to see any kind of progress on the scale. And he was feeling good physically. We could see in pictures that he was dropping weight, but just the pounds on the scale weren't dropping. And that's where I told him a saying that I've always taken to heart with me. And that saying, I don't paraphrase me on this, it's not factual, but this is how I remember it. And so I've stuck with it for the last few years. And it is simply that the man who loves walking will always walk further than the man that's just walking to get to a certain destination. Because it just implies that the man that's walking to get to a certain destination, he's taken on the identity of just walking to get there. He doesn't fall in love with the process. He doesn't fall in love with the journey, and he doesn't identify to being someone that loves to walk. Therefore, if you love to walk, you're not going to have to motivate yourself. You're not going to have discipline in order to go and do the thing that you want to do. And so where that pivots the entire thing is that you're able to have sustainability, and you're going to have the results that you want, and it's only a matter of time. But it doesn't matter how long it'll take time wise, because you're actually in love with the process, and you actually love the things that you're doing on a daily basis. And like I said, if you're doing it and you love what you're doing, well, then it's easy for you to do it. No more motivation, no more disciplines required, because that's just who you are. It becomes a part of your identity. And I remember very vividly a few months back, I'd say like late February, when I started my running arc, my running journey. And it was just something I needed to get outside. I needed to move, but I needed to be outside. I needed to reconnect with nature. I needed fresh air, just because the winter, the way that it was, I felt that need within me to do all of that. And it just so happened that, hey, I figured running was going to be a good path. One of my friends had ran a marathon. So I was just like, hey, you know what? I'll give it a shot. But when I started running, thinking of this philosophy, the man that loves to walk will always walk further than the man that's walking to get to a destination. I was like, hey, you know what? Let me take on the identity of someone that runs. Now I broke it down. And so I brought it to an extreme, and I was like, well, how is it going to be easy? Like, how can it be easy for me to take on the identity of somebody that loves to run, that it's easy for them to run, and that they don't have to motivate themselves to go and do the thing? And so I clearly established that I'm like, okay, I'm going to take on the identity of a marathon runner. Why? Because marathon runners, well, if you're running 42.2 kilometers, breaking it down, when you have to run 5 kilometers, it's not that hard. So it takes like a goal that you like. I wanted to start running, but I was like, hey, if I identify as a beginner runner, well, then it seems like 5 kilometers is going to be difficult for me. Whereas if I already like bring it, and my goal is to identify as someone that's a marathon runner, so meaning I enjoy the training, I enjoy the journey, I enjoy the discipline of going on runs, I enjoy that pain, I enjoy that struggle, I enjoy everything, the ups, the downs, the positive, the negatives. Well, what happened was like, hey, it became easy for me to say, okay, well, hey, today we have a 5K run, let's go and knock that out. It wasn't like a dread, it wasn't as much of a chore, because that's who I identify to. If you identify as a marathon runner, for me in this example, well, it was just like, hey, okay, let me take that on. And now, I ran half a marathon on a Friday for no other reason than to prove to myself that I could do it. But the profound truth in that was because I genuinely had myself believing that I had the identity, like I could feel identified to someone that could run marathons. I haven't done it yet. It's only a matter of time before I do. But I'm just saying, every step I was taking while I was doing my half marathon was like, hey, yes, it's a step, and yes, I'm running, but I'm only halfway of a marathon. So everything was broken down. Everything became a lot simpler because I had taken on that identity. And by doing that and taking on that identity, well, it meant that I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed whatever I was going to have to go through, whether that be positive or negative. And it just became a lot easier for me to identify, literally to identify, to see myself in, to have intention instead of attention to the thing, but to have intention in my training, in the discipline I needed to have with the foods, in the way I was fueling my body to optimize it to go on longer runs, and to give my body the right fuel and the right energy it needed to really fuel those runs, so that I wasn't passing out and feeling low energy and just wanting to give up. So everything magically put itself together in order for me to identify as a marathon runner. But if I started out just being like, hey, I'm a new runner, and yeah, running is just something that I'm new at, well, it would have probably been a lot more difficult to reach that 5 kilometer mark and then to go on a run for 8 kilometers and then bring that up to 10 and slowly and progressively. But instead, it was just like, hey, whatever run I'm on, like this is what needs to be done. Obviously, doing it in a structured and programmed way. But I was just like, okay, well, hey, this is the training. This is what it takes to be a marathon runner. And I identify as a marathon runner, whether that was true or not. Like, even if I had never run a marathon, I identified to that. And then I convinced myself. And by like that, repeating that thought over and over again, what happened was that like that belief came true because if you believe it or not, you're right. So it became true for me. And that belief of me identifying as a marathon runner became true. And then everything became easier from that, of taking on the identity of who it is or what it is that I already wanted to be, and reverse engineering those steps in order to already in the present moment, right now, in this current moment, to identify to that version of who it is that I want to be. And then just working backwards from there, instead of starting where I'm at and then trying to see myself there and seeing all the obstacles and all the struggles, it becomes a lot easier. So I'm very curious, what is your goal right now? What do you want? What do you have to identify to? What's that new identity that you have to take on in order for you to be able to become the version of yourself that you truly want to be within your heart and that you know you can accomplish? But I'm a challenge you on looking at that goal and reverse engineering the steps and working backwards to already identifying that version of you right now to that version of yourself that you want to be, instead of identifying to right now and then trying to figure out how you're going to get there. It's a lot easier, but it's a simple mindset shift, right? Remember, the man that loves walking will always walk further than the man that is walking to get to a certain destination. So I hope this brought a nice little mindset shift for you. It definitely brought a huge one in my life, but it's been transformational in a lot of aspects. And every time I'm doing something new, I understand that my identity is going to need to change. So that's the framework. That's how I go about it, and it's really brought amazing change and amazing transformations in a lot of aspects of my life, and has allowed me to benefit from taking on those new journeys and just falling in love with the journey and not solely with the destination. So give it a shot in your life. What's your goal? How are you going to be making yesterday jealous? What is that for you? Go take action. Think about it. Believe it, and you'll soon see it. And you'll soon see it. Holy shit! And you'll soon see it in your reality. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, listening to this. Hopefully it brought a nice little mindset shift. Like I said, take on that new identity of who it is that you want to be. And as always, I will see you very soon. Thank you once again for listening and watching. And as always, my friends, let's keep making yesterday jealous.